them to the stage.
So, first of all, thank y'all for staying with us. Those that have, I appreciate y'all sticking around. Little did the people that left know that this is probably the best presentation you're going to see all day.
I'm not telling Dr. Mace.
Oh, no. Well, Dr. Mace is a good presenter. I'm not going to take that away from him. All right, so a little bit of the monitoring network update. And again, for those that do not know me, I am Bobby Wazan. I'm the water resource specialist for the district. And here to my left is Ralph Cifuentes. He's our field technician. Earlier, Sidney Youngblood here in the State of the Union address that he gave mentioned that the board had tasked us with finding more monitoring wells. And Gary told him the way that we were going to do that is if we got more help. Well, Ralph is our more help, and he comes with us with a tremendous amount of experience and knowledge, and he has been a fantastic addition to our staff, and I can't thank him enough for the amount of work and the amount of relief that he's given me. Not from doing my job, but from helping make my job easier so that we can then serve both the citizens of our district of Burleson and Mountain County. But with that, you've heard a lot today about the monitoring network and monitoring this and monitoring your wells, but y'all might not know what the monitoring network actually is. So I'm here to give you all a little bit of an update, me and Ralph both, on what it is that the monitoring network is and what it does. So we conduct a monitoring campaign that we conduct annually from February through April. This last year we recorded 134 wells, and by we I mean Ralph did 100 and I did like 34. But with that said, we do have more wells than the 134. There just so happened to be some that we just could not get access to, could not get a good reading for some reason. There was a lot of wells this year that kind of gave us a little bit more trouble than we had. They changed ownership, and the last owner didn't want us back in that well, so we've been having to work with them. So we do have about 154 wells as of February that were in our monitoring network. And again, 134 of those we were actually able to get good readings on. Trends were on par with previous year's averages, so that means we go in with a well. You might have seen outside a couple of those videos we have, or if you've been on our YouTube or our webpage and seen some of the videos of our monitoring well or our monitoring network. You kind of saw some of the tools of the trade that we use outside. We got an E-line and a couple of steel tapes. Those are really the two main tools that we get to use while we're doing this. The steel tape is probably the one you see us use the most, and we do take precaution and care to decontaminate, to make sure that we're using Clorox wipes or some kind of sanitation wipe to make sure if we're going to be putting something into your well, we want to make sure that we're not responsible for contaminating your well. So we do take extreme care to try to prevent that. So just know that we do take that seriously. And so the trends were on par with previous year's averages. What that means is that we do have some drawdown that occurs on an average basis. It usually fluctuates anywhere between a couple of inches to about a half a foot across the district for all formations. So we have monitoring wells in the 7 different aquifers that we have in our district. The most of them are in the Simsboro formation, and y'all heard from everybody talking today that the Simsboro is the target formation for a lot of the production within our district, and for that reason, we concentrate a lot of our monitoring wells in that formation. But this year we did have some unexpected drawdowns measured. So what were those unexpected drawdowns? And they happened really in one location with a set of wells that happened to be tied to the Deanville Water Supply Corporation that were noticeably lower than the previous years. And we're talking in the range of anywhere from 7 to 23 feet. And y'all might have heard about it in the newspaper or might have heard about it from just, talk of the town. And I'm here to tell you, I want to make sure we get y'all the facts that is true, that we did measure those drawdowns. We have since gone back and taken additional measurements. What makes those additional measurements a little difficult to be able to make conclusions from is that during the summer months, so we've taken measurements from March when we initially got the measurements up until just 2 weeks ago. I believe July 28th was the last measurement we got. And during the summer months, so during May, June, July, what starts happening is that it starts getting hotter outside. People start pumping more. So we call it the seasonal fluctuations that happen during pumping, where water levels fluctuate just naturally, seasonally. I say naturally because of pumping. As demand goes up, so does production, and that typically happens during the summer months. So some of the readings that we've gotten since our initial readings can have some impact, or some of that drawdown that's been measured can be influenced by just that natural seasonal drawdown. But because we know that we had an initial drawdown, our goal, or what we're trying to do is try to figure out how much of that was due to drawdown because of regional pumping or of some other impact, and how much was due to just natural seasonal variations. What we do know is that the wells are still capable of providing for their customers. At least to my knowledge, I don't know if Curtis is still in the room or not, but at this point in time, and from our last measurements, they've still been able to get the water that they need to supply to their customers out to those customers. They haven't had to drop any pumps. They haven't had to stop production due to any of these drawdowns. There's still an average of about, at one well, it's over 200 feet of water above where the pump is set. At another well, it's about 110 feet, I believe, is the smallest gap between where the pump is set and where the water levels are reading at, and that's one of their oldest wells. What we're still trying to learn about this unexpected drawdown is what caused it. We've gone through some of the nearby wells and the nearby producing wells that have been producing. Some of y'all may know that Vista Ridge well field has been going in, and they've been doing some well tests out in that location. They did collect data from some of those well sites, and we know because of that data that they collected in both Queen City and Carrizo wells, that we know that their impact on this Deanville well, or that there was no impact because their pumping is in two different formations. The wells that have been impacted, at least in the Deanville area, were mainly are in the Queen City formation, which lies above the Carrizo, and the pumping that was being tested for that Vista Ridge project was down in the Carrizo. And a well that they had paired, a Queen City well and a Carrizo well on the same pad or on the same site, they had transducer data. That means they stuck an instrument inside of a well in order to get data while the Carrizo well was pumping. And in that Queen City well, they saw no response between the two wells that were on the same location. And this location, or this pumping, happened several miles away. But because we know there was no immediate impact on that one site, the chances of impact several miles down the road is probably nil. We're also still trying to learn what the seasonal water level fluctuations are, so we can understand those impacts or those differences on what does seasonal water fluctuations do versus what was just the normal drawdown. Kind of like base flow or peak flow in a river. It's kind of trying to separate those two as well. And then we're also trying to learn what the hydraulic properties are at the well. How quickly does water move, the transmissivity. You heard Dr. Mace and Steve Young and Toya Jones talking about that earlier today. Those are some of the stuff that we would like to figure out at this well. And we do have some instrumentation that's coming in. It should be here by the end of this month, if not early next month. We hope to get this well instrumented, and that way we can start gathering some of this additional information, such as the seasonal water level fluctuations. Instead of going out just once a year like our annual campaign does, we'll then be able to use these instruments to collect data on a hourly basis or a daily basis, if that's, depending on how we want to set that program up. And then we can also do some pumping tests. We can tell it to take data readings on a more frequent basis when pumping is happening, and therefore we know when the pump turns on, we know how much water they produced. We can see what the drawdowns and what the recovery rates are, so it'll give us those hydraulic properties from those wells, so that we can gather more information, so that we can make a better assessment on what might have or what did cause the drawdown in this area. So with the data that we collect, we use the monitoring data to keep us in compliance with our desired future conditions. So you've heard desired future conditions. You've heard a lot of acronyms today, GAMS and MAGs and VFCs and stuff. And this is where kind of all of this comes into play. What the desired future conditions are the levels that the GMA, another acronym for you there, that's the Groundwater Management Area, has come up with, that what they, due to the amount of production and the amount of demand that's happening in the area, what are the water levels that we can feel comfortable with, or to say, with all the balances that we have to do with demand and local conservation and what have you not. This is what the desired future conditions that we have set in place, and you'll see what those are by formation on this side of the screen. And then with the measurements that we've taken over time, where are we at with compliance to those desired future conditions. So here we have one that's actually at negative number. That means that the water levels in the Queen City throughout the entire aquifer are actually recovering and not going down. Same thing here with the Caldwell Bluff. But then we do see some where they are, we are meeting some drawdowns. For example, the 47% in the Yewa Jackson. However, there is some, I would take caution with reading too much into that 47 for the Yewa Jackson. The reason for that is, and the reason why we're up here, is to let y'all know that, the reason that number seems so high isn't because it's actually high. It's because of the way that formation works and the amount of data that we actually have that goes into determining that number. Robert Mace stood up here and told you earlier that we're not like the Edwards Aquifer, where you can use one indicator well to tell you what's happening throughout the entire area like the Edwards Aquifer does. We need to have multiple wells, monitoring wells, in an area to see what the average overall impacts of pumping are. And the Yewa Jackson just happens to be a formation where we have a limited number of monitoring wells in. And so if you are in the lower part of Burleson County and you have a well that you produce out of, talk to Ralph, talk to me, sign up on that sheet outside, because we are looking for more Yewa Jackson wells. And not just to make this number go down, but so that we can understand the way the Yewa Jackson works a little bit better. But I believe this number is there because it uses 3 wells to average that entire bit right there, that number. Whereas something like the Simsboro has close to 50 wells that go in to help determine that number. And then we have the projected drawdown limits. This is something that the district has put into place for the last couple of years. This is for the shallow formations or for the outcrop. For us, right now, it's not a true outcrop where these protected drawdown limits are, but it's what we've delineated as a shallow portion of the aquifer. And that line has been set at 400 feet. So where all the formations from the surface down to 400 feet is what we classify as our shallow management zone. And those shallow management zones have a different desired future condition, if I may call it that. And that is what these projected drawdown limits are. And most of them are set to 10 to 20 feet in that shallow area. And the reason for that is because people in these shallow areas, they usually don't have, especially up in northern Milam County, they usually don't have another formation that they can drill down into, like someone here in Burleson County may. Not that we're encouraging you to go drill deeper wells, but somebody in Milam County, if they have a well in the Simsboro, they may have a hooper, but somebody that's down in the hooper, that's it. They don't have any other wells. So any impacts from regional pumping that carry out into the shallow management zone, we need to be able to stay on top of, monitor it, see what's happening, so that we know if we ever reach any of our trigger spots, so that we can start getting into that management toolbox that Gary was talking about, where we do change up some of our permit terms or do some curtailment in the amount of maximum allowable production, and that's where these numbers come in here. As you see, as far as from our numbers, so far we are in compliance. And this last year, you can see that a lot of the numbers actually declined from the previous year, which means it rained quite a bit, and or there was less production in the area. So we either saw more recharge or saw less production, and therefore we saw the numbers or the water levels in those formations in that shallow zone actually came up some. But so with that said, what have we been doing to try to make our network better besides getting more wells? And I'll let Ralph talk about that in a little bit. A recent action that the board just adopted at their last board meeting a couple of weeks ago was to finally take what we've been calling our draft compliance, or it's a guidance document on how we calculate those numbers that I just showed y'all. So we now have a protocol in place that you, the public, can keep us accountable for, or petition to the TCEQ to keep us accountable, because this is now in our management plan and in our rules that this is how we are going to calculate those compliance numbers. And this document is now approved, but within this document is also another protocol or guidelines to how we measure wells. So it's not just going to be me or Ralph going out there and doing whatever we want. We also have a strict guideline or protocols, which we've already been doing anyway, but we now have it in writing that this is the procedure that we're going to follow when we do go out and measure water levels that then in turn get used for figuring out this compliance. So with that, I'll let Ralph take over for a little bit and let him tell you what he's been doing while I've been in the office soaking up the air condition. Ralph's been playing in the sun and getting a tan, as y'all can tell.
All right, Bobby, thank you.
All right.
I was been out since I started in August of last year part-time, and I just became full-time in May 1st. So I've been really hitting the roads. I didn't know there were so many county roads in Burleson County. Can I keep a truck clean?
Yeah.
But anyway, it's been good. It's I get to travel and look and try to pick points where we're needing to fill gaps. So I plot that out and I look for logs and so I've been hitting, just knocking on doors, just talking to people, trying to meet them and say, hey, you got a well? Yeah, sure.
And trying not to get shot.
And try to talk to them about adding to the monitor program. The more information we have, as Bobby said, the more information we have spread out, it gives us better information, right? Give us valuable information for the model and for us to predict or to look and see what's going on. Just like the Yawa Jackson, I've been working in the Somerville Snook area. I picked up maybe 4 wells, rig supply wells. If you have a rig supply well not used, those are the kinds we like. They're not being used. They're just sitting in a field. Maybe call me up. If I give you a card at the end of this, or sign your name up on the list. But it's just I'm just hitting the roads. I feel like the American Picker. You ever watch that show, American Picker? You're trying to find the best deal. I'm out trying to find these wells that are out there. You know, I even look for abandoned wells that aren't being used, that have just been uncapped, or I'm just out looking. I can just spot them. And so I found some of those, and so I'm constantly on the road. So I am your field technician. I am on the road and enjoying meeting people and leaving my calling card, and it's a very interesting work. And of course, I've been involved with water work for many years, water wells, and I'm here as a resource, like Bobby is. We're here as resources for you. If you're drilling a well, you'd like some information, I can help you with that. So we need more wells in the Yaywall, Jackson, and actually we drilled some monitor wells. If you didn't know that, we drilled 4 2-inch piezometers out there. So we're actually drilling. If we can't able to secure a well, we'll try to drill a well. So those are the good things that are happening. And Bobby's going to probably show you the new interface, computer interface here in a minute. And boy, I'm excited about that. That is awesome. I come from Alcoa Illuminati. I didn't have that computer experience as far as being able to pick a hole and look at what on your property or whatever, where you want to look, but he's going to go into that. But if you have a well on your property and you want to let me come and visit with you and let's look at it, or if you just have a well you want to know what the static level is, I can help you with that too. That's always good to know, right, where your static is on your well. So
another thing that Ralph's been doing is, as part of this monitoring network, it's not just knowing what the water levels are and just picking out a random well out there. We also have to know where that water's coming from, so we know what we're measuring, what formation. Like I said earlier, we have 7 different formations that we are in charge of regulating. 8 if you count the Trinity up in northern Malin, but there's no wells in that formation. But with those other 7, we have to know, where are we gathering that data from? So it's not just going out and picking a well just to pick it. But if we can't find a well log for it, Ralph has a way of figuring out how deep that well is and where that water level is coming from. Ralph, you want to tell him a little bit about that?
Yeah, usually I can find the information. It's hard to, sometimes the previous landowner drilled it and I can find that information. But typically if you have an unused well, I have a camera. And I can get data through the camera. And if you saw it out in the foyer out there, that's the camera I use. I got pretty proficient with it. I think we have a depth maybe at 1,200 feet, Bob. 1,200 feet. And I can run that camera down and look at the screens and look at everything and get all that data we need.
He just asked that you bring him lunch and water throughout the day.
Right. But anyway, that's a useful tool. That camera is a really neat, it's a good tool to have, and it really helps them a lot. Sometimes you find the old well, you really don't have any data on it. You don't know how deep it is or what it looks like. But with the camera, I can even make a video and just see that, look at it later. So, yes, sir.
And that's a service that we also provide to everybody in the district. So even if you have a well, even if you don't want it and put it in the monitoring network for some no good reason at all. I'm kidding. You have your reasons, and they're always good. But if for some reason you don't know how deep your well is, and we can't find a well log, and you just want to know how deep that well is, give us a call, and we'll come out in there. And now, of course, you would have to pull your pump if you have a pump in that well in order for us to get that camera down there. There is a charge for that, unfortunately, that you have to pay the driller to do. But if it's part of the monitoring network and we can't find a well log for it and we need to put a camera down in it so we know what we're doing, it's actually a cost we'll cover. So there's a little bit of an incentive there to put it in the monitoring network. And we'll put the pump back in there for you also. But that's, that's just part of the stuff that we have to do to make sure that we're providing the best science and the best data, and not just guessing at what's going on out there.
And I don't know if y'all know, probably some of y'all do know, we help with plugging wells too. You might have an unused well I may run a camera down and it's unusable. We can help you with that too. We can cover part of the cost on that.
And here also, one of the other tools that we do have, and I know we didn't put it up here, is this water quality. We do have the ability to to help come out and sample if that's something you want to do. And so with that, I'm going to give another quick plug for Texas Well Owners Network on this water sampling campaign that we've got coming up starting today. Turn in samples on the 23rd. Please, guys, if y'all want to do this, this is a $65 value that the district is providing for free. It's a tremendous asset and value for you. Y'all should do this at least, if you own a well, you should do this on your well at least once or twice a year. Anyway, as part of just having a maintenance plan for having that well. Again, this is an opportunity for y'all to do it at no cost to y'all. Pick up the samples out in back or on your way out the door. Fill out one form per bottle. Turn it in to your extension agent, whether it be here in Caldwell or over in Cameron, and then come back and see us on either the 11th or 12th for those results. And then what those results mean, not just you're going to get back a bunch of numbers and you might not know what that means or how to fix. If you have an issue with like iron or manganese or something like that, and they're going to give you options on how to fix. They're not going to fix it for you, but they'll at least be able to instruct y'all or tell y'all what are some different options you may have in order to correct some of those issues that y'all may have. So a wonderful opportunity for y'all to be able to do, and that's again through this monitoring program, something else that we're adding this year. We added it last year, but this is we're doing it this year we're picking up the entire cost for y'all. But another way we're adding, do you have anything else on that, Rod?
No, I was just going to say, don't let me be like the Maytag repairman. Please call me or email me and let me know about a well, because we'll take a look at it.
Yeah, absolutely. Give us a call. Here's our information. And like I said, afterwards, if you do have a well and you want to come up to us, we've got our business cards up here, both Ralph and I, and it does have the privy of coming with our cell phone number, so you can call us at any time, not just when we're in the office, but that information is available. Anyway, so I'm going to go on with the next big part. Everybody's been talking about this new and improved transparency that we're doing at the district. And that is a public interface. I've been working on this for 2.5, 3 years now to try to get something. One of the things that the board has instructed that they want to do is improve transparency with our data, with the data that we have in-house, get it out to the public, and give them an opportunity to see it, but not just see it, but be able to understand it, and in a very user-friendly way. So we've been working with Half and Associates, which is out of Fort Worth, Texas, to bring us this program that we now could thankfully make available to y'all. And I'm gonna give y'all through voiceover a quick introduction into what this program is.
Welcome to Post Oak Savannah GCD's new public interface. This site was created to share the data and science collected by and or available to the district with the public. This site is made up of 3 components: tutorials, dashboard, and a public map. The tutorials are short videos that will aim to be a how-to. A step-by-step video will show users how to accomplish common tasks within the interface. The dashboard contains information on district registrations, permits, and production, and is displayed in graphical and numerical form. The public map is the jewel of this interface, providing a visual interpretation of a plethora of district data. Some tasks that are available range from well locations to water levels and aquifer coverage to aquifer depths using the virtual boring tool. Feel free to explore the page and don't be afraid to click buttons. Check out the tutorials for some guidance, and if you don't see what you are looking for, click on the link to leave a message or give us a call at the office.
On our webpage, you can actually find a couple more tutorials. Right now, we have 2 tutorials available that give an insight on how to use the public map, and we will give a couple more. I'm going to actually go to the webpage now here so that y'all could at least take a look at it. We can go through a couple of things. I know I've got a couple of minutes. I don't want to keep y'all too late past 4 o'clock because my bedtime comes up shortly after that. But I don't want to see this one. I want to show you how if you're the public, how do you get there? So let's do that. Where there is a wealth of information that Gary said earlier, you can find our minutes up here. You can find our governing documents. You just scroll up on top and then kind of go through here. Who our staff members are, board of directors, committees. Our board of directors now work through committees to get a lot of stuff done. So if you as a public participant in our district have something you need to talk to our board members about, the best avenue to do that is through our committees. And if you hit through them first, I promise it'll make it to the full board. So that's a good way to do that. And then you do have the district information is where most of our governing documents are. Our rules and management can be found there. But I'm not here to go through all of this stuff, so feel free to go to posgcd.org and scroll through a lot of that. And what I want to do is I want to take you to this new public interface, and that you can find that under the drilling and wells tab up here, and it's your first option that you can get to. And so you do get to see, for some reason, you do get the video tutorials up here on the side. You click on there, it'll take you to a page where you just saw the introduction. Just kind of tells you what this interface is and what it isn't. There's a tutorial there now on how to view the aquifer water levels. So Ralph and I were up here telling you about our monitoring network. We collect water levels on a pretty much daily basis now. We do it once a year, the big campaign. But every time we add a new well to that monitoring network, we're collecting data, and that's all going to be going into that water levels data in there. So if you want to see what those are, what the trends are throughout the district, go ahead and take a look at that tutorial. It'll show you how to do it, and I'll go through that here really quickly because it's not that difficult. And there's another one here. You heard just before us, Director Stephen Weiss, and our General Manager Gary Westbrook were up here. And they were telling you about the Aquifer Conservancy Program. And, Stephen said, well, this map's a little hard to see here, but if you're in my own county, you may or may not be eligible for the program. If you watch this tutorial, it'll show you a great way. If you think you're in that fringe zone, watch this tutorial. It'll show you how to figure out if you are, if you're not in that if you are or not eligible for this program. And it'll show you if you are eligible, how many acres you may have or how you can determine how many acres you might be able to be eligible for. So that's the tutorial section. Let's go. Oh, that took me home. I want to go back here, and I want to take you up to the dashboard really quickly. So the first thing you can go to is the dashboard. And the dashboard has just a lot of our data. Somebody asked the question during the PACP program just a little while ago, how do we know how many acres are permitted and how much permitted we have here? You can now look at that number for yourself. Now I will give you the quick note right now. And I know I've already texted this to somebody today, but there's a lot of cleanup and a lot of data that still needs to be added to this. Like I said, I've been working on this for 2 years. The data's not completely cleaned up yet, and so I know just note that there is some missing data, and that will be added as soon as we can get to it. But just wanted to give that note out there. But here on top, this is your dashboard. You can see a couple of different numbers for the district. The average yearly 5-year yearly production, what that is, like I said, that'll go up when we add the data that we need to add in there. The total permitted amounts for all aquifers, and then the number of permits up on top. You can then look at that also we have this Permit Explorer by year, how much was permitted by year. And then you can, if y'all know how to use Excel really well, this right here, it will come as no problem, because these kind of work like pivot tables like Excel. You can actually click on it and it'll tell you what each, you can even break it down by permit. And I'm working with HAF and our people still to break this down even further, for it to be like by county or by aquifer and stuff like that, so that you just keep clicking, that's a tongue twister, keep clicking those little arrows, and you can break that down even further and further. And right now we'll go to the production explorer, and you can actually see how that works a little bit better. So production, so you can also see the amount of production that's been reported by users or people who have non-exempt wells. One of their stipulations or terms for their permit is that they have to report production on a annual, monthly basis. That makes sense. So every year they turn it in, but it's got to be broken down by month. And so we've also for your just for your information, we've broken it down by county. So you can click on Burleson County. You can see by what aquifer that production is coming from, and then you can even break that down even further and say by what use, what's the primary use of that water. So then you can then see what those numbers are. Unfortunately, there's not like a print button here or a download, so you just have to write them down or take a screen print currently. But if that's something you want to see added, shoot me an email, and I'm pretty sure we can figure out a way to get that added to this. And then down at the bottom, just a graphical way for you to see some of this data. For example, here we go with well use. You can kind of see the breakdown of the wells that we have registered with the district or permitted, what that use is. Like this biggest one is the yellow, as most people could tell. Most wells registered in our district are for domestic use. And so that's the big one there. You can break this down even further. Well status, is it monitored, is it exempt, what aquifer is it in? So, right now we have a lot of them where we don't know how deep that well is, or we don't know what aquifer is. And that's some of the data that we're gathering when Ralph and I are on the road and finding more wells. This is some of the data that we're looking to fill, is take that 32% down, and hopefully at some point get that down to 0. I don't know if that'll ever happen, but we're going to make a very good attempt at it. And so, as I said in that introduction video, the jewel of all of this is actually this public map. And it works very similar to Google Earth or Google Maps, if y'all know how to use that. Quick disclaimer that pops up: you have to accept this if you want to go ahead and look at data. If you decline and don't want to understand that this is just, this is informational purposes only, well then I'm sorry, you can't go forward. But anyway, so the default layer that opens up is the monitoring wells, and that's all the wells that we've added in the district. There's some data missing here. We hope to add that here within the next couple of weeks, because that's probably the most crucial data that most people are looking for. Here's the water level tool. If you want to look at water levels, that's the tool, that's the button that you want to be able to click on. You can come and you can click on a well, and it'll open up a second page. And here you go, you have a hydrograph. What have been the water levels that we've measured and we recorded since we've started measuring that well. If you go down, you can actually see the raw data. Who took the water level measurement? What was the water level measurement? Any notes that might have, could go along with that measurement, and what date, and how the method used for that. We'll close this up. So each well that you click on will open up a new page. So if you don't want to keep it open, just close it and go back to the map and explore some more. The cool tool that I like the most out of this, and Ralph, I know, was really excited about this one, and trust me when I say this, probably 50% of my calls that come in to the office, and I'm not trying to get off the phone with you guys because I actually enjoy talking to y'all, but 50% of my calls are usually, how deep do I have to drill in order to hit a certain formation? Or if I want to pull out of the Simsboro, how deep do I need to go on my land? Well, we've got the answers for you now. You don't have to call me unless you just want to talk. So, anyway, we've got this aquifer bore activity, or this aquifer bore tool. You have to turn that tool on in order to do that. And then it pops up this red grid on Burleson and Milam County. And that grid is actually the groundwater availability model grid cells that are in the Central Carrizo Aquifer groundwater availability model that Toya and Steve Young were up here talking about earlier today. You can see that they vary in size. They've kind of made some advancements to that and made this grid a lot more representative and a lot more detailed than it actually used to be. But you can go on here and you can click anywhere. Let's say we're here. Caldwell's more or less around here. If I want to be in Caldwell or just outside of it and I want to drill a well, it'll pop up a new page and it gives you a little countdown. Again, disclaimer here, you have to turn off your pop-up blockers in order for this page to come up, and it will give you a warning to turn off your pop-up blocker, or that's what's stopping it from opening. But the way you read this is this is the data that's over here on this side is the data that's in the model itself, the top elevation and bottom elevation. Then you have the depth of the two formation, and then you have the formation thickness. So how thick is that formation underneath my property? And then just an approximate surface elevation that's actually taken from the digital elevation model, which is on 10 meter accuracy. So you start at the surface, 0 feet, and then you got to drill 73 feet before you get to the Sparta formation. Well, the Sparta is 220 feet deep. So in order to get through, if you drill a well that's 150 feet, you're going to have a Sparta well here. Drill a well that's 280 feet, you still have a Sparta well. The reason we know that is because in order to get to the top of the next formation is 293. So this level here will tell you what's the top of the next formation. So if you're in Caldwell and you want to drill a Carrizo well, you have to, just to get to the top of that formation, you have to drill 995 feet. And I wouldn't stop there because then you didn't hit enough sand. You keep on going until your well log or your driller tells you, yeah, you're through enough sand now. And then you're through the Carrizo. Now, if you want to drill a Simsboro well and you got a couple $1 million, you can do that. And you can drill a well that starts at 2,300 feet. So this is, when we're talking about this Vista Ridge project going in and talking about, people that are producing here in Burleson County are mainly producing from these upper formations, not the Cook Mountain, not the Wedges, not the Reclaw. All those are confining layers, or what we call, they're non-aquifers. The Sparta, the Queen City, Carrizo, Simsboro, and for the most part, the Hooper and Calvert Bluff are aquifers that produce water, but they produce water at a very small amount. And the Calvert Bluff is mainly clay and shale, that it doesn't really produce water unless you just need it for domestic use. It doesn't produce very much. But you can see that there's a lot of formation or formations that just do not transfer water very well, that overlie a Simsboro well to the Cook Mountain. And we know this because of drillers' logs. We know this because of well reports that come through that are, they call geophysical logs. I wish I could put one up because the guy walked in the other day through the office and pulled one out, and Doug had never seen one of these before. He looked at this and he goes, "Oh my gosh, what is that?" And I had to explain, when I explained it all to him, he was thrilled to find out that, the Calvert Bluff is 1,000 foot thick, and it's mostly all clay. Doesn't transmit a lot of water. So the connectivity between the Carrizo and the Simsboro, because the Calvert Bluff sits between those, is almost done. And we know all of that because of, one, the model, and two, a lot of the data that went into building this model. So that's some of the data that you can get through here. And again, you can click anywhere in the district and get that information. We're trying to work on this. I don't know if they haven't updated it yet, but right now, where you click on this map, it actually stays on there until you refresh this page. I promise I'm working on getting that updated so where there's like a clear or reset button that'll do that on its own. But you can turn on a lot of different layers. Feel free to go and explore. I know it's after 4, and I promise I wouldn't be here after 4. But you can turn on a lot of these different layers, and you can see here's the Carrizo Wilcox, where it actually overlies your properties. If you want, we can scroll in here really quickly, and we can actually turn on parcels, so I know where you live. So, but we can zoom in and we can look at these properties and see that, where they're at. You can see them each pop up there. You can see that this property number 27473, you get a cat. No, nobody. All right. Anyway, with that PACP program, you can see that about 50% of their property would actually not qualify for that Aquifer Conservancy program, and the other half would. It's actually probably a little bit more than that. But this is one way that we can be able to get that information and get that information to us. Or you could have already done that research before you even came and talked to us and said, well, my property is number 23871, which is right up here. You wanted to know, do I qualify or do I not? Well, unfortunately, you do not qualify for this program at this time. When production from the Trinity starts coming, I promise y'all will probably be the first one to call us. But right now, you would not qualify for that. But again, feel free to click around. I promise you can't break this because it's a public map. I actually have the secure map, and I'm able to make edits to this. Y'all can't, unfortunately. But y'all can peruse it, and y'all can look at it, and you can click on all the buttons you want. You can type in all the numbers you want, like if you want to just look at measuring something, or directions, or even radius rings. We can zoom out here. Let's turn on like a well, for example. You want to put in a well on your property, and you know that you want to produce so much water. You know that you've got to meet certain criteria for your spacing. So we'll just type in here, I need a buffer of 1,000 feet and from the property line, and I need 2,000 feet from the nearest well. And you can type that in there. You can make sure this is in feet and not miles, because if it's miles, well, you're in the next county. And then you can go down here, and then we'll do that by point. So I want to drill a well. Let's say I want to drill a well right there. And there's my ring. So my inner ring I knew was my property spacing. So I know that if I drill a well there that wants to produce so many gallons per minute, and if I needed 1,000 foot spacing, you better go talk to those neighboring landowners, because they now have to give you a variance to be able to produce water, or to be closer to their property than our rules allow, or you're just going to have to get a smaller permit. The other well, if there's no wells within that radius, that 2,000, or that 2,000 feet, because you got to be so many feet away from an existing well in the same formation. Since there's no other wells in that field or in that radius ring, you know that you're going to pass that spacing already before you even come into the office. So those are just some of the tools that are now available for y'all, like I said, before y'all even call us. But again, you're still welcome to call us. You're still welcome to ask us all the questions you want. We welcome it. Either call me, call Ralph, call Gary. We'll take your calls any day of the week, except Friday at 4:30, because we're already on the week. With that, I'll turn it back to Sarah to close up, and any last announcements she may have.
Does anybody have any provide your well.
It's after quarter, so if y'all want to go, you better
All right.
not.
Yes, yes, sir. Does it have a satellite option?
What do you mean by that? Oh, yeah, actually, yeah. That's a very
You
good
got me
question.
excited.
So just like using like Google Maps, like I said.
Click on this base. I know I don't have my mouse hovering, but there's this base maps on the corner up here. You can click on that, and you can either go to imagery, which shows you the satellite. You can turn on the hybrid. That's the one that I actually enjoy. The reason why I like the hybrid, and I'll tell you this right now, is because it actually numbers the roads for y'all still. You just turn on the imagery one, it won't number the roads, and now you're having to guess which one's which. But if you've driven all the roads in Burleson County like Ralph does, that's not a problem. So, but anyway, thank you, Lonnie. That's a very good question. I'm glad you asked that.